Rule 42. All persons more than a mile high must leave the court immediately.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Today's rule is rule number 33. Go back and give yourself some grace.
Hey guys, so happy Thursday. Sorry, it's Thursday. We tape on Wednesday. We, without my input or say or anything, we have another cat.
But
Yeah. Yep. Didn't even want the first cat.
oh, what kind of cat do you want?
We have it looks like Tom and Jerry, like Jerry. Tom. Looks like Tom. It's gray with the white paws and whatever those cats are. I don't know what kind.
Oh, that's so cute.
No, but he's in cat purgatory because they have to get the other two cats to get along, and they're still hissing, and the one's hissing at the other one.
You just gotta kind of let them out, because if you don't, it's just gonna. Did you not hear my cats?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, it's just they're gonna fight their cats or animals, but eventually they'll
acclimate to
they'll
each
start
other.
liking each other. I mean, yeah,
Well-
it made my bigger cat so much nicer. Getting a little.
That's good.
Smokey was a dick before, but now he's actually you can pet him and he's nice.
Smokey used to wait for her to come around corners just so he could sneak attack her.
He would
Oh, really?
attack. Yeah, no, my cat was an asshole, and totally different cat now. Now he runs from the little. He's like the little one's bitch. It's crazy.
We'll see what happens. It's been about a week, so they're still on separate, they're in separate cells. But I didn't want a cat, let alone now we have two cats.
You just came home and a cat walked by you.
No, they were talking about cats, and then Christine I was like, listen, I don't want a cat. The one we have is fine, but I don't want a fucking cat. I never wanted cats. She's like, I really bonded with this one. I like this one. It's a rescue. And she's like, I'm just a crazy cat person now. I'm like, great. So then
It is easier with two though, so then I have friends.
that's the argument she makes. Like when we go away, the cat won't have to worry.
Friend.
Right. So I came home one day and it was on a Thursday. She's like, I'm going tomorrow. I'm like, we never talked about this. And she's like, finally.
Well, she did tell you.
No, there's never a
She
discussion.
did tell you, and she bonded with this cat.
No, you're saying, what if I say I want a boat, and then on Tuesday I'm like, oh, we have a boat now. It doesn't, there's a lot of in between there.
A boat and a cat are different. Come on now, living thing, something you drive in. It's not really the same there.
Company. The cat can't keep the boat company.
No, that's true.
The cat to keep it company.
Yeah, I don't want a boat for the record, but you can't rescue boats either, I guess. So, but I'm just saying, it was I didn't have a choice, and now we have two cats, and
I didn't have a choice.
And a happy wife.
that's
you.
key. That's key.
Well, you know what?
100%.
Okay, but that's interesting because I have an uncle that he worked a lot, and he would feel bad that he would leave my aunt at home alone so much. So he started buying her pets.
I thought you said he got another aunt. Two of them just there.
He got a second wife.
He's like, I don't want these pets. But it was so interesting hearing the dynamic between the one that was like, I come home and I have two lovebirds and I have a dog. Who said I wanted animals surrounding me?
Now he's Ace Ventura all of a sudden.
He's coming home thinking he's doing this phenomenal thing and keeping her.
She was like, I don't want to clean up.
She's like, I hate these fucking things. Now I have so much more work to do.
Clean after the birds, freaking walk the dog.
Yes, you can't go anywhere because there's the dog needs to be.
Right. There's bird shit everywhere you got to clean out. God.
You don't stop squawking.
Yeah. Thanks. Best intentions, right?
Yeah, you
What is it,
love
the
me.
road?
You really love me.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right?
It is. It is
There you go.
definitely with good intentions, but communication is key, man.
And speaking of communicating, we are communicating up in Rhode Island this weekend for the big con that's been planned for months. And the outfits and the schedule. Our girls make a schedule of what they're going to wear when.
And there's still arguing going on here over all of that. So
yeah.
I'm choosing to check out on it. I'm like, I'll just be there.
Exactly. So that should be fun.
There was a drink in my hand, locked in a room with people that are the only other people allowed in the room. So
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They have bars at these things?
If they don't, I will not be there.
She'll be next door. There's a bar next door, probably somewhere.
Me stuff around there.
But listen, our daughters love this stuff, so this is a big deal. And when I asked Molly what she wanted to do for her 16th birthday, Christina, I asked her, she's like, I want to go to this con. So we're like, okay, that's easy, I guess. So be in Rhode Island.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And what else? It's the fall. We just had Halloween, and now we're going heavily into the fall. Audrey, you're going to be in Florida, and you're going to miss all of it, while Jen and I are up here freezing.
I know, it's been so cold lately too.
You're welcome.
Like, what's up with 34 degrees in the morning when you get up? I'm like, no.
Well, for these guys, cold in the morning is what, 70?
I would take that anything.
Yeah. I'm actually walking. I have pants on because it's too cold in my apartment right now, or my house.
It's a house.
It's a house,
yeah.
And it's 72 degrees. It is very cold. My feet are cold. I might need to put some socks on.
72 is cold. Wow, you're getting spoiled by this Florida weather.
Okay, so let me tell you. I went up north recently. Y'all are crazy.
No, it is too cold up here.
Cold, you can't breathe. It's like,
and we haven't even gotten into winter yet. That's what's scaring me. It's not winter.
Well, you were at the Yankee game recently, and it was a pretty cold night, right?
It was, but the adrenaline was going so hard. I definitely came with more layers than I needed. Yeah. Because I was just, your heart starts pumping, and you're so excited about everything that's going on around you, and you're trying to like really pay attention, and you realize the moment that you're in. So yeah, it was cold, but I didn't feel it.
Cold.
Now I feels it.
Yeah,
I was cold. I was at Jax's soccer game this weekend, and it was cold. I had on like sweatshirt, I had a blanket. Like I was like Eskimo. I was so cold. I'm like, I need a heated blanket out here somehow.
We deal with it. So I coach my son's hockey, and Christine goes to the games, and it's actually warmer outside when you leave the rink because the rink is freezing. And I was do you guys ever go to Atlantic City? We had a tournament in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
It's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Like it was, a little bit of a. I guess the casinos are cool. We didn't go to any of those, obviously, because we were.
Yeah, as long as if you're not in the casino, there's really like not much.
I mean, they do have an escape room, and I think it was the Tropicana that was really cool.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the casinos all have cool stuff, but outside the casinos, I don't really think there's much.
No, it was real dumpy.
The escape room wasn't in a casino. Well, it was near the Tropicana somewhere. I just remember I parked my car at the Tropicana.
There you go.
Well, I think they have that boardwalk that has like a bunch, like some stores and stuff. Maybe it's...
Oh my God, you have all the statues with crowns. Everybody pictures with their heads in the crown.
Yeah, they did that at the hotel we stayed in. It was all the gowns from like the 1920s and 1930s. It was super cool to see, but also the gowns were real shitty back then. But but it was just cool to see that history, But they
I don't really love to hear shitty gowns.
No, but they But AC was a little sketchy.
A little bit.
So no trip to AC. But Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, state capital. Very excited about that. But I'm also excited about, I'm excited to learn the guest we have today. It's going to be pretty powerful because she's got a story that will resonate, I'm sure, with a lot of people, and something that it's horrible what she went through, but she's become an advocate. Today we're going to have on Jane Epstein to talk about her story and her amazing story and where she's come in her life.
Yeah, can't wait to hear more from her. And it's so crazy that this is starting to come out and become more prevalent in conversation now. And people are starting to write more about it as well. There's that artist, Jelly Roll. He just came out with a song that so many women have resonated with, and it has to do with sexual trauma. Oh, wow. So everybody needs to recognize that this is something that is happening, has happened, has been happening, and time that we do something about it. And talking about it is great, but education is so important.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. I think the more we know, the better we all are.
Yep. Teach your kids what to look for.
Here we do a better education down a rabbit hole that is an unfortunate one that exists in people's lives.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 42.
So, Jane, I am Audrey.
And I'm Jen. Very nice to meet you.
And we can't wait to find out more about your story. I know it's hard. And thank you so much for being able to come forward and be able to discuss something that's so personal and so impactful, and something that unfortunately other people have had to deal with. I have no personal experience with your situation, but if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, the moment that you realized that you wanted to confront your past trauma, because I know that you hid it for so long. So when did you get to the point where you decided, like, no, this is something that I need to face, and I'm not just going to face it. I'm going to make sure that I advocate so that people understand that this, one, occurs, and two, that you can get through it if you have.
Right. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me on your platform. This is a tough topic, and I have been told no a lot. I'm getting more and more yeses. So thank you to you and your audience, first of all. Secondly, I kind of fell into this by accident. I had struggled for close to 45 years. And there came a day and I was sitting on the steps and I was crying, and I decided maybe there's something inside of me that needs fixing. And I decided to give up alcohol, and I started writing my story down and started journaling it. And I think it was at that point I was able to take a step back, and I realized, wait a second, I was sexually abused as a child by a sibling, and I'd spent decades thinking it wasn't that big a deal. It was two kids being curious. But when I took a step back from what I had written on the paper, I realized, no, this was a big deal. It did happen. And at that point, I started Googling it, because that's what we all do. I started Googling it, and I couldn't find any information on it. I found two outdated articles by two psychologists who said it was a silent epidemic. And I thought, well, wait a second. If it's a silent epidemic, I'm clearly not the only person who experienced this, and my sibling's not the only person. But we've come a long way, thankfully, in the last 7 years, because that was about 7 years ago. But we've come a long way. So that was kind of at that point, I realized I'm not the only one, and my brother's not the only one. And I got this tap on the shoulder that said, you need to talk about this. You need to raise awareness. And I started screaming from the mountaintop.
And is it a part of your healing process?
Definitely. I believe in sharing our stories. I think that we're all connected by our stories. And I think that I will see myself in your story. You'll see myself in your story. Even though we don't share the same stories, I think even if something resonates, my story has so many layers to it that I think someone will hear something about it. And I think definitely sharing your story with a safe audience, I think it's been incredibly healing for me. And I do encourage survivors to share their stories. There's so much shame and it's hard, but I believe in the healing process for sure.
And I will tell you what everyone keeps telling me has nothing to do with you. And if you do feel safe in our zone, do you mind, just so our audience has an idea of so we read your background and we know your bio. I just like our audience to understand where it is you're coming from, but I don't want you to discuss anything that you feel uncomfortable with. So if you'd like to start with the trauma and then go from there, or if you would like to just go with speaking about healing from the trauma.
You know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to speak the way that it happened in my brain. Because
Okay.
it didn't happen. It wasn't a lateral process in my brain. So the way it happened for me is when I was 45 and I found myself at the base of the steps and I decided, okay, no, there's something inside of me that needs work. It was at that point that I started writing my story. And when I took a step back, I was able to figure out, okay, my life happened out of order. Things should not have occurred this way. Now I can go back to the trauma. When I was 6 years old, my older sibling, who was 6 years older than me, became curious. He had a sex education in his class, and he was curious. And what was typical was I popped out of bed and I was changing my clothes, and he made a conscious decision that he needed to know more. And he decided to get me alone. And I know this because I point blank asked him, why did you do this? Thinking he's going to tell me he was sexually abused. There's got to be a reason for it. But this is what he shared with me very openly and honestly. So he made a conscious decision to get me alone because he needed to know more information. And he got me alone, and then his body responded and he wanted more. So at that point, he started volunteering to babysit me and get me alone. And as a 6-year-old child, I didn't have the words. I didn't understand what was happening. It just kind of felt like a science project is the best way to describe it. I felt like I was being poked and prodded and didn't understand. And like a lot of victims, I floated to the ceiling, learned to disassociate. And then I started feeling like I was participating in the abuse because my body responded. So then I started hiding the abuse. So I didn't tell mom and dad what had happened. I didn't have the words. I didn't understand until later in life when I could look at it as an adult and think, why didn't I say something? Which is actually very common for survivors as well. We place so much blame on ourselves from the adult perspective, not the child's perspective. And that takes a lot of healing to get to that point and give that child some grace. So that's kind of how I discovered that this was a big problem. And then I could go back through my life and point to, okay, this is how it impacted my life. But I don't know if you want me to go through my story, if you want to ask questions or.
Oh, absolutely. I'm absorbing all of this. I do not have, nothing happened to me with a sibling. But I was about 4 or 5 when I started to experience like sexual trauma. So I'm just taking it in and listening to your journey because I would like to get where you are.
Well, I'm sorry that you experienced that. Unfortunately, it's so prevalent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I started writing, and then the way that my story unfolded was because I didn't know that this was a problem. I didn't know that it impacted me. I started going through life in a disassociated state. I was angry, and I think that was the shame. I think that was a shame talking, that I was angry. I was volatile. I was very promiscuous. Boys were very important to me. Boy attention was very important to me. And I got to high school, spent a lot of time chasing boys, spent a lot of time cutting class, spent a lot of time doing drugs, cocaine, marijuana, mushrooms, alcohol. I'm grateful to be alive. But I didn't understand it. I thought I was just a rebel, and this is just how I was, and that I just had a temper. I was born with a temper. So I continued that process, and I ended up going into the field of stripping. And as horrifying as that may sound as a parent, I'm now a parent. If I had a daughter, I'd be horrified.
I have 7 kids. I was a stripper.
7 kids. Congratulations. I'm very blessed. I wish I had 7. I have 2.
I love my they are my life.
Go back, I would have more.
Yeah.
Well, you're a stripper. Okay, well, we have that in common. And I found that stripping for me, I felt like I was able to regain a little bit. I thought I was regaining control. And I was actually a shy, awkward person. And it helped build my self-esteem. And I learned how to schmooze with men. And I also put myself in some very dangerous situations. Again, I'm grateful that
you're alive.
Yeah. I'm intact. Through stripping, I was gaining control until I wasn't. It started becoming, I started being filled with shame. I started needing to do drugs and alcohol to get on the stage. And I was becoming more angry and more volatile. And that's when he walked in. When I say he, that would be the first night. There are 2 nights in this story. The first night he walked in and he tipped me and he said, "You look like the kind of girl I could take home to my mom. What are you doing here?" And I said to him, I said, you always come in and you tip me and then you leave right away. And he said, well, look, I'll stay tonight. I said, okay, great. So I rushed backstage, I freshened up, and I came racing out to make sure he didn't leave. And I climbed up on the bar stool next to him. And I believe in love at first sight. And I think that we experienced love at first sight. And I don't have any shame in saying that he rescued me. He told me, look, it's either me or the stage. And I chose him. And it was a struggle. It was hard for me to get up the stage because of the attention and the money. And I was terrified that he was going to abandon me. We can fast forward a little bit.
Well, you lose your sense of independence, like your independence when you make that, because you're not just walking, you're walking away from your income as well. And so now you're giving someone control, not just of like I just gave you my heart. Now I'm giving you like every part of, like, you could literally, I could end up on the street tomorrow because I'm making this choice to be with you. So that's a big choice to have to make. People are like, oh my God, like, how is that even a choice? You were a stripper. Yeah, it's a big choice because your independence matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a lot of ego tied up in it too. Looking back, I had a lot of ego into it. I mean, it fed my ego.
Like you feel sexy. I was very similar to you. I was that girl that would have sex with her shirt on because I was just so uncomfortable with who I was and what I looked like and just myself. And I did the whole stripping because I didn't have a job and didn't know what else to do with myself. And I would get on there because I would start drinking, but it started to make me feel like I was in control.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to touch me. I was in control. So I get that it's not something as simple as, that he rescued you. You also made a very brave choice to walk away from that.
I had never looked at it as a brave choice, so I appreciate that perspective. I do. And I look at my stripping days fondly. I look back at them. They were wild, crazy days, but they helped warm me. They did help warm me. And now I can, I have confidence and I felt pretty. So whatever it did. And honestly, I went back to therapy years later, and the therapist who had seen me as a teenager, he said, wow, stripping's done for you what therapy could not.
I love that.
Not that I recommend it for everybody.
No.
But we each take our own path, and we each have to get there in our own way. And
one of the other girls that was there that worked with me, she was doing it to get through nursing school, and she did it.
Right.
And she graduated and she left and she's a nurse.
Right. A lot of people do. They pay their bills that way. And then there are a lot of people who, like me, there were a lot of people who were sexually abused who ended up on that stage for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm so happy that you were able to find the love of your life too, and recognize that, and that you had that awesome moment of love at first sight.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that moment as well, because now I believe in it. So when someone tells me that they fell in love at first sight, I understand it and I believe in it. Yeah. So we ended up moving in together. He supported me, got me back into business college, taught me how to cook a little bit, taught me how to dress appropriately, not as a stripper. And but it was a volatile relationship because I wasn't known, and I still had this shameful secret that I didn't tell him. And 7 years into our relationship, I was trying to sabotage the marriage. We did get married, and I was trying to sabotage it. I was trying to push him away. I didn't understand why, and he didn't understand why. And we were coming to probably a pretty pivotal moment where I was really starting to resent him for whatever reason. In my mind, I thought he was controlling me, and I wasn't happy. And I was going to get back into therapy. And it was at that point where he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. So all my little petty complaints did not matter anymore. So when he was diagnosed with cancer, in my brain, I thought, I can't live without this person. He's the only person I've ever loved, the only person who's ever loved me. I cannot live without him. But something inside of me, I was able to surrender it and just trust the process. He did not survive. He did pass away. And it was at that moment, I think, when I experienced real feelings, real pain. I think I'd spent my life disassociating for so many years, but when he died, I didn't have any choice but to feel and to feel alive. I had no choice. I could not bear that amount of pain. And I was grateful for things. I was grateful for rainy days. I was grateful for green grass. I was grateful for my life. And I thought, okay, this is my story. I'd survived this. Now life will be smooth sailing. But I learned a lot from that process, and I'm grateful for that process. And I was very fortunate to meet night number 2. And night number 2 was every bit as important, if not more important, in my life. But night number 2 has gone through hell with me. Poor guy. Well, he is my husband, my now husband. And we got married. Life was good. And then we had 2 children. And that's when the memories came back of the sexual abuse. And that's when depression kicked in. And that's when I tried to sabotage this marriage. But he wasn't having it. He's fiercely loyal. He would not let me leave. So we can dive back into more questions, or we can go into that's kind of where I was forced to heal, because the depression and the children and the marriage, I didn't have a voice.
That's where my question was actually going to go. As a mother, now how, and given that this is a situation that occurred between your brother and yourself, now you have a daughter and a son, correct?
I have 2 sons.
Yeah, 2 sons. Now, how do you, which doesn't matter, the Menendez brothers, boys, yeah. They happen. How do you as a mother, or were you able to not transfer that trauma down?
I am very fortunate. I did transfer it down because I was depressed and I was volatile. They were 2 and 3 years old when I was I was trying to push my husband away and trying to sabotage this marriage because I didn't want to be known, and the shame. And kids pick up on that. I think they pick up on that. And so I told this husband, my now husband, I want to go back. I want to go to therapy. I want to go to counseling. And of course, he's like, no, I don't want to do that. And I said, well, fine, I'm going to go. And he did join me. And I think it was through that counseling process that I was able to level out a little bit. But I still think I transferred a lot of that trauma onto the children. It wasn't until I decided to go on antidepressants and quit drinking that I was less volatile and I was able to be present. And hopefully I've been able to make up for it now. Hopefully I've ended the cycle of trauma. I will say that when I went on to antidepressants and started sharing my story, getting myself healthier, the whole mood of the house was better, less anxiety. I don't yell at my kids anymore, but I think until they're about 5 years old, I transferred some of that trauma onto them, and I'm sorry for that. And like I said, I hope that they're resilient enough to not have internalized it, but time will tell.
Well, you're human, and at least you're doing something about it, and you were trying to help yourself, which is amazing for them, because you are a strong woman who consciously is trying to heal. And
and one day they'll look back and won't be embarrassed by me.
Yeah, that's what makes you a better and stronger parent. Regardless, is that you want more for your children, so you try to heal the wounds for them. Because in order to be better for them, you have to be better within yourself. And I know that that's like a constant struggle for a lot of parents, not feel that internal monologue of that you're never good enough or you're always doing the wrong thing. None of us came with an instruction manual. No, none of our children are going to be perfect. We're not perfect. Our parents weren't perfect. It's just human nature. All we can do is learn to be kind to each other and be good people. So yeah. I actually also wanted to ask you about, you said that you asked your brother why. Did you ask him why when you were a child, or did you ask him why as an adult when you got older?
Yeah, there's 2 pieces to this. I knew that this had occurred. I didn't completely forget. It was always in the back of my brain. But I pushed it aside as 2 kids being curious, and then I was complicit. So who was I to be messed up over it? However, when I was 21, he had his first child. Well, his wife had her first child. And he pulled me aside and he said, I'm sorry for what I did to you when you were little. And I froze. And I thought, what did he do to me when I was little? And then shame came back to me and I remembered. And I said, it's okay. I participated. That's all I could say. However, his apology, I think I carried that in my back pocket for the next 20, 25 years, knowing, okay, he apologized. He's not ignoring it. He knows that he did it. I think that was very helpful to me. And then I went through that angry depression phase and I hated him and I was angry at him. And then forgiveness, that's a whole nother episode. But I did come to terms with it. And I decided I forgave myself first. And then I was able to write him a letter of forgiveness. And he responded by saying, geez, I didn't know this was still an issue for you. I thought it was done. Because I think he thought he'd apologized. It was over. It was at that point when I told him, look, I need to go public with my story. There's a small child inside of me that needs to be heard. And this is a silent epidemic. And I'm being told something is telling me that I need to come forward. I need to talk about it. And he said, I'll support you and help you heal in whatever way you can. Obviously, he doesn't want to be running around saying, it was me, but he will support me. And through that process, I said, I need to schedule a phone call with you. I have several questions for you. And we got on the phone call and I asked him, I said, I was about 45 when I asked him, I said, why did you do that? Fully expecting him to say that he was sexually abused as a child, but then he was very honest with me. And that's when he said he was curious.
When did he stop, abusing you? How did that just stop? Was it you that stopped it, or was he just like, oh, I'm not curious anymore, I'm done, or how?
He went away to college. I was 12 and he went to college, and that stopped it. And then I started seeking male attention through school and any way I could, because I would describe it kind of as, my sexual feelings had been awakened and I didn't understand it. I needed to be validated. So I was seeking it wherever I could get it.
So I've been in therapy basically my whole life.
Yeah.
And I actually have an appointment today. And I remember being a kid and seeing my abuser with a girl and being so mad, so jealous. What did she have that I didn't? Why didn't he want to play with me anymore? And he was a lot older than me. So, and I that became that happens. It's something, there was a name for it. There was a term for it, because I actually did ask my therapist, because I thought there was something wrong with me. How am I that fucked up? How am I so fucked up that I got mad? And it's something that people go through.
They do. I'm a moderator of a Facebook group of 8,000 survivors. Well, there's 12 moderators, and it's very common. It's very confusing because we love, hate our abuser and we have bonds with them, and it's very confusing. It's such a traumatic experience. We're young, we're baby.
I think, just to jump in, I think one thing, and I said this to Audrey too, one thing you have to just tell yourself and believe is that none of it is your fault. And I think when your kids are old enough and they're mature enough, they'll say, Mom, yeah, you had a rough time when we were little, but stuff happened to you. That's not your fault. Yeah. I don't think they'll hold that over your head. I know that's probably deep down in you, but it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You guys are victims of something. And hopefully, you believe that,
I feel like sometimes a lot of that is easier said than done, though, because it's ingrained in there and you don't.
Well, I think it's also important, and you guys can probably correct us, to hear that more, to have people validate that you didn't do anything wrong. That wasn't something you chose. That was something that was done to you guys. And I'm sorry you went there. As a parent, it breaks my heart for anybody to hear that about anybody. And like I said, I'm sorry that you guys deal with that and went through that. And it's amazing that you can do what you're doing now and and Audrey, you too, and you can be brave and strong and bold, and that's freaking awesome. And it's I'm glad that, there are people like you guys living that.
Well, I also remember one of the important components, or one of the important parts of healing from trauma, is acknowledging that, one, not only did it happen, but people that have been traumatized are more likely to be an aggressor. So acknowledging not just what occurred, but the repercussions that can happen helps you not to do that. I'm saying this the wrong way, but I'm hoping that the point is getting out there. Just knowing that like the trauma, the experience, it can morph people into doing the same thing, but ignoring that fact about the trauma doesn't help you. Facing it can help you heal. I never did anything to anybody else, but it became a fear when I became a mother.
Yeah.
And I hear that from survivors as well. And I also think that a lot of survivors don't go on to offend because they know the pain that's been caused. And my heart breaks for male survivors. I know a lot of male survivors
It's really hard
for that. Yeah. And I have a lot of empathy for parents who discover sibling sexual abuse and trauma within their home. I'm a parent, I'm a survivor, but I'm not a parent of a survivor and someone who's caused harm in my home. It literally blows the family up. And it's devastating. I mean, how do you choose? You can't.
Yeah.
Well, you sometimes are forced to.
Yeah. Because there's no real option. Like the court comes in and starts. I've been in situations or know people that have been in situations where the court became involved and just you lose control over all of that. And yeah, they're your kids, but
that's why I talk about it. I don't want any family to experience it. This has been going on since the beginning of time, but we are raising awareness. We are moving the needle. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Now, what is the for those that are listening and would like to join? So I know you just said that you were a moderator in a Facebook group. Would you mind sharing that so that at the end of our episode, Tommy can also post that at the bottom of the link?
There's actually two groups. One is for survivors of all types of sexual abuse, and that is called Taken Innocent. And then there's actually a group for survivors of sibling sexual abuse and trauma. I do not moderate that group, but I'm in that group. Again, it's community, and you find your peers, and you can share your story safely. And that's where I really got a lot of my healing was within those peer groups.
And I know a lot of people tend to stay quiet because they feel like they're going to be judged.
Yeah.
And you can post anonymously too.
And at some point, you just have to get over what other people think anyway, because the only person that can tell you how to feel is yourself. And the only person that can tell you how something has shaped who you are is you, because no one has walked in your shoes.
Right.
Right. Like you just look at where you are now. Like you just seem like you have this like peace to you.
I do.
Like you're in such, and you feel it. And that's so important. It brings a different energy to a space. It brings a different lifestyle. Like you said, your volatility, all of these things about who you were are just that, who you were. You found a peace within yourself. And that just provides so much hope for people out there. Because again, silent epidemic.
Yeah.
And
I'd like to say something about that. I think that now I can look at it, and it is something that happened to me. It's something that did form who I am, but it is also now a chapter of my life. And I don't know what the next chapter holds, but now I've been able to share my story and relinquish it to the world and hope that it helps someone else. Sharing my story and getting it out of me, out of my body, has been incredibly healing. And I think that you all three probably experience this when you let people share their stories. When you help them, that helps you. And so when a survivor reaches out to me and I can get them into this survivor group and I can watch them grow and flourish, that helps me heal.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They say that people have been traumatized. They get this fix off of helping others and knowing that you've just saved that space. And someone doesn't have to deal with that. I actually got into a huge argument with somebody one day because they told me the only way for someone to learn is to be traumatized.
Well, I could have done without all this trauma. However,
I'm like, wow, actually. So thank you so much for being able to come out and speak about it and finding a place with it. it's so good to see you and to see like, yeah, you have this whole chapter that's gone in your journey, but like where you are now is just amazing. And being able to like just be so open about it, and just how brave
Yeah.
to call and find out why. Because I would block every part of my life out.
Yeah, that's like, that seems to be my MO. I just block things out and then put in that little vault that you don't have to open up or remember, and you're good.
I'm very good at that. Very good at that. There's still a mold. There's still a lot locked in there.
Well, you're very
I'm
strong for
afraid to
letting
let
out what
go.
you have let out.
But
Yeah.
you realize how brave that is to make the call? Like, you don't know what the ultimate, like, you have no clue what's going to happen at the other end of the call, or how you'll feel. Will you feel worse, or will you feel better at the end of it? Like, you don't know, but you still made, because fear comes from not knowing.
Yeah.
You still made that choice to confront that and find, like, no, I need this answer more than I'm afraid of what the answer will be.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even the answer you thought it was going to be.
Well, I weren't. It was not the answer I thought it was going to be. But
So
I
you
think,
can't prepare yourself for something you don't know.
yeah. But it's like a muscle. I think I get more and more brave, and I forget that my topic is icky. I forget because I'm speaking about it on a weekly basis with survivors or on calls, because in the UK, they're actually doing research, and they're doing a lot in the UK. And then they come back to the United States and people are like, ew. And I forget that my topic is still icky. This particularly, just I speak about it so easily now. But at the time, it was terrifying. I thought, no, this is not what I want to talk about. This is not going to be my thing. But it's been my thing, and we've been able to raise a lot of awareness.
Your journal become a book?
Sort of. Yeah. It took 7 years from start to finish, to start from the journal and to put it into a readable book. But yes, it is now a book.
Oh, you have a book.
Finally.
What's the name of your book?
The book is titled "I Feel Real Guilty" by Jane Epstein. Yeah.
That's an incredible
That is-
title itself.
Yeah. Yes. And I know some survivors, they've reached out and they said, we don't like the title because I don't feel guilty. And I've had to explain that I don't feel guilty now, but at the time I felt very guilty. And there's a letter to my mother that starts out, "Dear Mother, I feel real guilty." I was trying to let her know what had happened to me, but because I didn't have the words, I was only expressing in the way that children can express.
No, I get it. Well, you were a child. So they say, or I keep on saying they say, I read all of these different articles or have things sent to me all of the time, or just try to remember the things that the therapist tell you to focus on. But you get stuck in the age of where your trauma was. So people will criticize when you're a child and you kind of get like stuck in that mindset. They will criticize you as being too, like, acting like a baby all the time, or being a brat or spoiled, or all of these other things, not recognizing that it has a lot to do with trauma, and it's a trauma response, not necessarily that they want to be like a kid. And I think it's important for people to realize that everyone responds to their trauma differently. So just because one person might not have felt guilty over what occurred to them doesn't mean that another would. I never said anything. I stayed quiet for years. And as an adult, I'm sorry, they did it to someone else. And I hold that. So
I don't want you to hold that. I don't want you to hold that, Audrey. I don't. That is not your fault. You were a child. And I hope that you can pull out a picture of you at that age and give that little girl grace. They chose to do that. And you are not, I hear this from survivors. I do. You are not the only survivor who has experienced that. And the guilt is not yours to carry. I really hope you can give yourself some grace. They chose to do that. Sorry.
I'm sorry. So, but I'm super happy that you were able to find like your number two, because having love and having someone that's there to support you And to see
So important.
you're falling apart and to be able to build you up and to recognize that like this, maybe we need to address something here. So it was super important that you were able to find that love and that support, and because he was definitely a part of your growth as well.
He's been amazing. I have to tell you, because I started writing my story and then he would start editing it, because this was during COVID when I really got heavy into writing. And I would have to say, look, this is a really tough chapter. And he would read it and he would say, you never told me that. You never told me that. And I said, I didn't tell you anything. And it was hard for him because then he had questions and I'd say, I can write about it, but I can't talk about it. But it was really helpful to him to understand me. And it was really helpful to me to be known and to still be loved. He still loved me despite all this stuff that I was sharing with him. It was hard for him to read about my late husband. That was really hard.
Yeah.
And to read about all the guys that I've been with, the countless transactional relationships. That was really hard. But this man has stood by me. He's my number one, I don't know what fan.
He's your cheerleader. He's
definitely
boosting you up.
Yeah. He, I told him, I said, I want to do a TEDx talk. And he said, okay. And then we hired a TEDx coach. And then we went to the TEDx and we brought the kids to the TEDx. And he said, okay. And then I said, I want to complete my book. He said, okay. I said, I want to go to the UK for a conference. Okay. And just this poor man has been through hell with me because, I got married to him and he didn't know about the childhood trauma. And he thought that my grief was all wrapped up in a pretty package. It was not. And, I tried to sabotage this marriage and he wasn't having it. And he's been amazing. Is he perfect? No, he's not. But he's been perfect for me and what I needed to do. And I had to set boundaries with him. He's what I needed to get through this process. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think we all have those people that we need in our lives that, are our little background cheerleaders who help push us through life. And I'm so happy for you that you have that and you have someone that supports and loves you so much.
Still, despite everything.
And
we all have our baggage. We all have our baggage and it's okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, his baggage and my baggage are very public in this book now. So,
oopsie.
Oh, you're helping people, but you're helping so many people who aren't strong enough as you to maybe come out. And because of you, they can now.
I hope so. I do hope that. I hope that even if they just come forward to their family or they come forward in a Facebook group or come forward somewhere, because, I do believe in getting it out of our system, out of our body, because it's not ours to carry.
We actually interviewed someone recently and they had made a statement about being able to go back and look at that child and realize that you're observing, but you're not that child anymore. But you have to acknowledge that child.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was just very important and just goes in line with what you're saying so seamlessly.
Yeah. I definitely have to acknowledge that. I don't know what stuff.
Yeah, so is there going to be a follow-up book? Like, what's happening? No?
Not as of right now. That took everything to do.
You'd be surprised. So many people will come out with a book and it will be essentially that's why when you started mentioning journaling and listening to you and your advocacy towards awareness and getting that message out there and acknowledging that this is my reality, this is what happened. And this is happening to other people. Like that is just so it's bravery beyond anything. And I know that you're healing, but you're healing so many others too.
I hope so. I do hope so. And you ask what's next. I think what's next, honestly, is through this whole process, I've been able to be part of a co-founding member of 5 Waves. And 5 Waves is worldwide awareness, voice, education, and support. And 5 Waves is made up of 3 parents who experienced sibling sexual trauma in their home. They discovered it, and 2 survivors. And my hope is that 5 Waves can grow and we can bring on more survivors. Like if a survivor reaches out, we let them write a blog, those kind of things. If we can, I'm a collaborator. And if somebody else is doing something, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm hoping that I can kind of slowly go in the background of 5 Waves and let other survivors come forward and kind of pass on the baton. So that's probably what's next for me. And focusing on my kids and rising juniors. So I don't have much time left with them at home, and just continuing to advocate and continuing to hear from survivors and get them the support they need. That's probably what's next right now.
Did you have twins?
They are not twins, but they are a year and a week apart. It can happen.
Oh, mine are 14 months apart. I know. That window. I know people that have gotten they just spit one out and then they were pregnant again.
Yeah.
Wasn't planned, but it's perfect. So
Yeah. Everything happens the way it's supposed to. You just kind of...
They're in the same grade right now?
they are, because they're both August birthdays. Yeah.
That's awesome. How does that work out for them?
Time will tell.
Built-in best friends, it's always awkward going into a new year or whatever, and you don't know anyone or you don't know what they're going to be like. You're stuck with that person the whole summer, so they haven't changed.
Right. They're very close and tight and have a lot of the same friend groups. So we'll see what happens with college when they may separate. But
well, you're in junior year, right?
Right.
So you get all the fun and excitement of senior year next year. And there's so much coming. There are face groups for that as well.
The three of us are all in senior year with one of our kids, so it's an interesting time.
Fun.
That's a lot.
Well, my child goes to a school for that's more specializes in neurodivergent children, so they don't do as much of the fun stuff as these other seniors are doing. But I am also fortunate enough to be absolutely obsessed and in love with my daughter's best friend, and her school does all of this stuff, so I'm living vicariously through them.
Yeah, my two kids are introverted, so I think I'll be doing some vicarious living as well.
Well, don't miss out, because it is actually fun. Some of the schools, decorate parking spots. There's senior parking spots, and they have the kids when the kindergartners are walking and they're transitioning with the seniors in the middle of the field.
And my school, they did the fifth graders, so it was fifth grade and the seniors, and then you'd get a senior buddy. So that was always a fun, because it was the youngest and the big one together.
Oh.
Because you're talking about transition and stuff and being able to spend that time because you know that they're leaving. Next year is going to be so much fun. Treat it like kindergarten. It's just it's the end of it, but it's so much fun. And senior pictures are fun. And now they have this thing where they do senior best friend pictures. So all the seniors, they don't have to go to school together. It's just all the seniors and they just get together in a group with senior shirts and just take pictures together because it's all of their senior year. So it's fun. It's a good time to embrace. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Is I won't have a junior, because junior year is you've all been through it. It's just hell. So that next year I won't have a junior and a senior. It'll all be senior fun.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great to know that you're all going through that. I mean, I am part of some Facebook groups, Grown and Flown and Dorm Room Mama. So I'm kind of.
Oh my God! Have you seen the decorating that they do in some of these dorms?
I have boys. I don't have to worry. I'm good.
The boys do it too.
Not as much. Definitely not as much.
Mine won't care. Mine won't.
They hang a few posters and get the LED lights, and that's it.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely went to my boyfriend's dorm, his son's dorm, and yeah, that was very minimalistic.
Sure, a poster is good enough.
That's it. Done.
I literally think that was the only thing he had.
Decoration done. Yeah,
and the girls look like Better Homes and Gardens, shoot.
Yeah, no, the girls go all out. They're they need the new bedding and a whole theme to their room.
Yeah, I freaked out when I first joined that group. I was like, oh my gosh, we didn't budget for this. Then I was like, oh wait, I have boys. They won't care. It's all good. I'll just have vicariously for everybody else.
Sheets and blankets, they'll be good.
If that, they'll be I'll just take one from home. They don't even care.
You'll start getting bills for their laundry.
Maybe.
That's when they come home to do it.
But yeah, awesome things ahead. It's great. It's great to see. It's great to see you thriving.
I'm so excited to be able to make time for all of these things. But thank you so much for telling your story. I don't And I actually look forward to hearing the next chapter, because as much as you think that this was the only one, I feel like there's more, because this is a different part of your journey now. Like, first you go through the exposure of it and the acknowledgement of it and the recognition of it and the healing with others. And now you're moving on to the passing of the baton, like you said, to be able to spend that more time with your family. But then it becomes a whole different part, though, because now you're getting to see the change and see it transition from a silent epidemic to being recognized for what it is. And I feel like there's so much more coming.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Oh, well, that's what I see, Captain. So. You're welcome. And thank you so much for being a part of Rule 42 and for sharing your story with us, and being able to advocate for people that just have not found that voice for themselves and have not been able to speak up for that little girl or little boy inside, and is still dissociating because they don't want to. That's okay, because that's part of their journey. But hopefully hearing you advocate for them will help recognize that eventually you have to get there.
I hope so. So thank you for your platform. Thank you for taking the time to talk about
Thank you. You are truly an inspiring person. Like, it's really cool that you're doing what you're doing. And I thank you for it.
And very brave, because I know that a lot of the choices that you're making, like, I get that they're self-healing, but you're also making them not knowing how the people around you are going to react.
Yeah.
And that's brave.
You are brave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jane, so can you tell us where we can find you, or people, if they want to get in contact with you, if there's somewhere that they can look you up, or is there an Instagram or something?
Absolutely. So I am Jane-Epstein author on Instagram and Jane Epstein author on Facebook. If you want to email 5 Waves to get resources, say you're a parent or a survivor, you can email info@5waves.org. Those are probably the best places to reach me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to Rule 42.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Rule 42 is hosted by Audrey Cruz and Jen Burke. It is produced and edited by Tom Smith. The opening song is Rule 42 by Eddie Carr. Rule 42's artwork was created by Aubrey Cruz. And I'm your announcer, Molly Smith. Thank you for listening to Rule 42. We hope you enjoyed the show. New episodes premiere every Thursday on all podcast platforms. Please subscribe, share the show, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple.